Get to know each of the 12 mayoral candidates with KKTV 11 News Know Before You Vote with this in-depth interview featuring Longinos Gonzalez Jr.
My first question is what you think the mayor's primary role is.
Well, the primary job of the mayor is to make sure that the annual budget gets submitted. And so I think a lot of the background that I have in working with $100 million projects, both as a county commissioner and during my time in the military, where I handled $100 million projects as a deputy director, makes me one of the strong candidates because of what I can do in helping address the issues related to our city. And then secondarily is finding the right priorities that I think the residents prioritize for our community, as well as making sure that we're funding the core functions of government. And that's why I've always prioritized our public safety, our police and fire, our roads and infrastructure. And then we need to address the ongoing concerns and issues of the residents about our water issues and long-term growth and housing issues and concerns.
What are your thoughts on Mayor John Souther's performance, and if elected, would you keep it in the same direction or change course?
Well, I think the mayor has generally done a good job, especially in terms of our economy and our growth. However, there are definitely some things that I think we can still improve on. Our community, we've seen areas of the city that have grown and benefited a little bit better than others. And so I want to make sure that our residents living in all portions of the city and our city districts receive those same benefits and improvements. And so I want to make sure that we have a pride in our entire city and that we're promoting and advancing projects in all areas so that all residents are getting equally the benefits from our government. Also, some of the things, and again, I prioritize public safety. We saw crime rates increase at levels that are not acceptable. We saw homicide rates last year in Colorado Springs increase over 22%. And we've seen additional issues with still undermanning and shortages in our police department that we have to address. And the previous police chief acknowledged that there were call response numbers were inadequate, as well as some drop calls numbers that were, again, not acceptable. So we need to improve that and make sure that we address those issues, and I will address it. That's going to be my first priority, is making sure we address that and that we bring crime down and that we get our manning to the levels that are required to address those issues. And we're going to do that by looking at funding as well as training and making sure that our community comes together in community forums where we bring our law enforcement professionals, our community together, and all stakeholders so that we can take great pride in our law enforcement and our city.
How would you propose to stretch taxpayer dollars and still achieve your goals as mayor?
Sure, and that's one of the things I think I've done well as a county commissioner. We have a very efficient budget amongst the 10 largest counties in the entire state. We have the lowest per capita revenue, and so we're able to do great work and jobs with working on a tight budget annually to still address the issues for our residents at the county level. And I think I can do that at the city level. I want to make sure that, again, we prioritize public safety, roads, infrastructure, and addressing different issues, and making sure that our residents, they've brought up the fact, hey, we do need to do a little better job in our parks and open space, and making sure that we're addressing that and their maintenance there, so that people are feeling safe in their neighborhoods and doing what we can. I think the first thing we'll do is we'll look at all the departments and see where we can find some efficiencies. Oftentimes, streamlining some of the regulations, land use codes that we have, and making sure that the departments are manned properly, and in other areas where we can save money, let's do that. I've got a record of doing that already, and I believe we can do that. And one of the things I believe we can do is do it without any more tax increases or new taxes. I do not believe we should be adding to the burden of our local residents with any more taxes or increases to those taxes. We've seen them struggle through COVID, a lot of the layoffs. We've seen the inflation hitting them hard, and we've seen utility rates climb dramatically, as well as our property values, property taxes increase. So I want to make sure that we continue to address all the issues for our city, which we can do, and we will do it without adding any more tax burdens to our residents.
How can the mayor have an impact on homelessness in the region?
Sure. One of the things that we've been doing at the county level, and we've seen it at the city level, is addressing the different aspects. It's uh, multiple aspects need to be taken into account. One, it is a public safety issue, which I've addressed before. We need to make sure we're enforcing the laws and doing cleanups. At the county, we've continued to give additional dollars to make sure that those laws at the county level are enforced and the cleanups happen so that people can feel, again, safe in their communities and neighborhoods. The other aspect is a public health and mental health issue that needs to be addressed as well. And so my positions on the Board of Health, on the new Regional Opioid Council that will help address some of that, as well as my positions on a state level Board of Veterans Affairs and locally at Mount Carmel, that these are areas where we can help address some of those issues by bringing in our health and mental health experts to help those that are in need and looking for help, as well as addressing those. But we have veterans out there that are homeless that need assistance and have benefits that they're not utilizing. Let's help bring them in, get them the help that they need. And the other aspect is making sure that affordable housing issues, some of these are in families, individuals who are maybe short-term need of housing so that they can get then permanent housing. Let's address things with our workforce center, as well as working on our issues with affordable housing. How do we make housing affordable for those, especially that maybe only homeless for short term or just are looking for that permanent housing? What can we do? I've served on the as a liaison to the county housing authority, and my work there I think is being very effective in helping our residents. And I'm going to continue to promote and expand some of the projects that we've utilized successfully. Some of that are turnkey programs, which is helping either new homeowners or low-income homeowners get into that first home or a new home. Others, as well as sponsoring the private activity bonds, which helps turn bonds into tax-free bonds, which again allows them to save hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars in construction costs, and again helps keep those costs down for our housing. And then we can continue to do things through the regular city housing authority that will also benefit. And the last thing we can do is help on the housing aspect, cut regulations. How can we do things more effectively and efficiently so it keeps the costs down for that new construction? And that's going to help some of the residents who are, again, and maybe temporarily need some assistance, get them into permanent housing. And so it's something that needs our entire community to come together. I will promote stakeholder meetings with our nonprofits, our faith community and churches, as well as our government entities, to make sure that we can address this in the way that it needs to be addressed. But we're going to enforce the law, we're going to do cleanups, but we need to be compassionate and help those in need.
You may have answered this question with that last statement, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What can the next elected mayor do to help with the affordable housing crisis?
Sure, and again, I kind of already touched on some of that. There are some aspects I already mentioned, helping with the turnkey projects, the bonding, getting the community together to help some of those. We've seen some of the churches step up and donate land where they're utilizing that for some of the affordable housing construction costs. And those are the kind of things that when the community comes together and has good leadership in their next mayor, we can make things happen. Again, cutting red tape, code, zoning, helping making it easier and streamlined is going to save time, which then saves money. The other thing the mayor absolutely has to do, and I've done this as a county commissioner, is advocate at the state level to ensure that bills don't add costs or burdens to our construction or to getting into a new home. We've seen some bills at the state level that will do just that, add costs, thousands of dollars. And for every $1,000 added to the cost of a new construction, it usually keeps out 300 to 500 potential home buyers. And that just trickles down to how many more people can't afford to get into a house. And when you add more of those potentially bad bills that add costs, now you're taking out thousands of people who can afford a home. So we want to make sure that we have somebody that can advocate and be a voice for our community and our businesses to make sure that we help keep those costs down. And I've done that at the state level with our counties association. I'm very well respected there, and I'm going to continue to be that voice to do so. The other thing we've got to do is bring stakeholders together so that we can grow smartly. Again, that kind of goes into the water issue, but also on growth. Where are the appropriate and smartest areas in town to develop? We want to make sure to help keep costs down. You do so in an area where there is already infrastructure in place or essential services nearby are in place. So, for example, building an area where there's already a police station or a fire station or utilities connections, water connections, stormwater. That's going to help keep costs down. And then absolutely taking care of our infill areas in the city where we already have available land, or being able to develop on areas where the services are already nearby or in place will help keep costs down.
You've touched on the water crisis in a couple of your answers already, but you will be able to elaborate with this next question. How should Colorado Springs handle city growth given the water constraints in the West?
Sure, and great question. And that's, again, why I mentioned it already, because it is one of my concerns and priorities. We need to bring all the stakeholders together. The county and the city have already just 2 years ago, not even 2 years ago, come together on a annexation, IGA, interagency governmental agreement on how to do some smart planning and long-term growth. We need to take into account water as one of those priorities. The county, we updated our water master plan, and I want to bring those stakeholders together to do the same type of thing. CSU is looking at a new annexation plan based on some water. Unfortunately, I don't think the data has been vetted out very well, and I've asked that stakeholder meetings come together so that we can address and plan properly with city, county, and our water districts to make smart plans. And so that's what I want to convene within my first few days. And I've already asked for those now as a county commissioner. Let's have those meetings. Let's figure out how we can do so smartly in a way that conserves our water and allows us to utilize our utilities to acquire additional water rights, and smart planning of funding for our infrastructure that allows us to collect and utilize more of those rights so that we can continue to grow in a way that takes advantage of our community, and does so in a way that keeps costs down, and does so in a way that doesn't overburden our essential services like police and fire and water.
Finally, Longinos, why should voters cast their ballot for you?
Well, thank you. And again, I really do think I've got that broad background. I've got the experience, leadership skills, and I think the values that match our community. I've been an advocate here on so many boards. I've been a county commissioner that I believe residents trust and respect because I make data-driven decisions based on values, public input. One of the things I really trust is our public. They're smart, they're bright, they bring great ideas. And having that public input is vital to making sure we make smart decisions as well. What I think separates me from the other candidates in this race is my broad background. I'm a current county commissioner. I'm a retired Air Force officer. I'm a businessman. I was a college professor and school teacher for a little bit because I wanted to give back to my community. And I've been a church volunteer since moving back and during my military career. That broad background, I really think matches our community. And I think I have that leadership and vision that people trust. And so I'm asking people to vote for Longinos Gonzalez for mayor come April 4th.
Longinos Gonzalez, candidate for mayor of the city of Colorado Springs, we thank you again for joining us in our 11 Breaking News Center and wish you all the best this upcoming election season.
Thank you. God bless.